Good morning, everybody. It is officially official, the very first hurricane of the 2021 Atlantic hurricane season. And I gotta say, it's really no surprise. As soon as we saw this wave come off the western coast of Africa here, and we were easily able to follow it, and then that 2,600-mile storm track put out by the National Hurricane Center, it was almost written in the stars that we were gonna see a storm, at least in its early stages, just like Hurricane Dennis from 2005. And sure enough, we are now looking at our Category 1 storm, Elsa, and you can see right now it's just in between Barbados and the island of St. Thomas right here, so we can almost pinpoint the centralized low pressure is about right here. Within an hour or two, it's going to be on the western side of the leewards, heading toward the Lesser Antilles. And just as quickly as the information came in about this becoming a hurricane just a little while ago, we saw the entire chain of islands, including Barbados, immediately covered in tropical storm warnings, then a huge section covered in the hurricane warnings. As you can see now, our very big cone of uncertainty covering basically the entire state of Florida right now has now switched to the H symbol, which represents hurricane. Obviously, we talked about this yesterday. So now the information has been pushed forward, and they believe that the interaction with the high mountains in the southern area of Dominican Republic and Haiti, and then even the mountains of Jamaica, are going to be enough to lower this storm back down to a tropical storm before then crossing parts of Cuba and then getting to Florida. So if this track does stay true, we can assume that this information will be correct. But again, you can never be certain with these storms. Way too many times, and I'm sure a lot of you have been here with me to witness it, we have gotten information about a storm where we're certain it's going to do this or do that, and then last minute. And a perfect example of that situation is what you're looking at right now, Hurricane Irma from 2017. I know many of you have to remember the tracking of this storm and how crazy it was for the state of Florida. Hurricane Irma was one of our Category 5 storms in the record-breaking year of 2017, along with Harvey and Maria. And you are looking at the lifespan of Irma. Irma became a Category 5 hurricane very quickly, and for a very long time, almost the entire of the life of Irma, it was projected to go to the east coast of Florida. I very specifically remember the state of emergency being declared, and not only people completely moving off the east coast to the west coast, but also moving up into the United States. And then absolute last minute, within a couple hours of when they projected this storm to be able to move north before passing underneath South Florida, everything changed, and we had a Bermuda Atlantic bubble expansion which kicked out this way, keeping Irma south longer than expected as a Category 5, and then clipping Cuba, thankfully, because the next turn for Irma right into the Keys of Florida and then making a direct hit to Naples. But thankfully, before that, hitting Cuba weakened the storm enough to where it wasn't completely devastating. So what exactly am I getting at here? Basically, what I'm trying to say is that at any moment in these storms, even when they're super close to the United States and we have an idea of where they're going to go, a slight change can take place that puts the storm in an entirely different area, especially based on how states like Florida are shaped. A very thin state that sticks out into the ocean, especially down into the Caribbean. Just a matter of an hour or two can determine whether or not a hurricane is going to be on the east coast or the west coast of Florida. And now that we have all that information in hand, which is super important to understand while forecasting storms like this, now we're going to get into the most current storm tracks and forecasts for Elsa from this point going forward. So we're going to see what effects, if any, areas like Dominican Republic, even Puerto Rico, and specifically Jamaica will have on Elsa and the continued formation as it then approaches Cuba, possibly South Florida, the Bahamas, and then Florida itself. And these exact spaghetti plots are why it is so hard to forecast these storms. Once again, same situation as forecasting Irma and a very similar situation to Hurricane Dennis in 2005. We have forecasts that bring it to the east coast of Florida, and then we have a bunch that bring it to the west coast of Florida. That is a huge difference, especially when dealing with a state of emergency, which is usually declared when they need extra funding and extra help for the state in preparation for a hurricane. But then you got to deal with the fact that it could be on the east coast or west coast. So do you evacuate the entire state, or do you evacuate parts of the state that are more prone to the landfall, but then you risk the storm changing course at the last minute like Irma did, and then everything's messed up and you have double or triple the work? These are the very reasons we have so many different storm models and different companies that put out data and different technologies to try to figure this out, because if we had only one source, chances are it would be very unreliable because they're controlled by outside influence influences like the Bermuda Atlantic bubble, and then our jet stream as it gets closer, and then there's weather that moves in from the Pacific Ocean into the Gulf that'll influence storms or push them out of the Gulf, or set conditions that'll pull them into the Gulf. Alright, and now for the part of the video most of you probably wanted to see, and we're only about 6 minutes in, so we're going to take a look at the GFS, and we're also going to compare it to the NavGem model, or the Navy model, because it gives us basically the spectrum of these spaghetti plots, and I'll explain why. Each of these clicks is 6 hours, so we are officially looking into the future now. As we move into 4th of July, we can see that Elsa is at 994 millibars, just past Dominican Republic and just under Haiti. We can see right up here that is Sunday, July 4th. We'll continue to move forward, and basically at the end of July 4th, we can see right here as we go back and forth, that is when it is forecasted to clip Jamaica, and it looks like it's rolling over the northern side of Jamaica as far as this forecast goes at 989 millibars. And then of course we will continue on. It goes underneath Cuba by about noon on July 5th, and then continuing its way into the Gulf, passing the Keys on the west side. And then as of right now, you could see 997 millibars in pressure just as we're about to make landfall in that western pocket of Florida. So again, we're looking at July 7th as a possible landfall. So that gives us 5 days between now and then for all these changes to take place. And last but not least, we're going to take a look at the NavGem model, which basically gives us that opposite view of the Gulf landfall, which we just talked about near the Panhandle. If that stays true, that would be July 7th, with a lot of stuff to go in between. We still got to talk about our friends in Jamaica and give out forecasts for Dominican Republic, Haiti, and Puerto Rico. And as we go through these frames, you're going to see the storm follow a very similar path to the GFS we just looked at until the storm gets to about right here, and then everything changes. So we're going to watch this go underneath Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, and Haiti, maybe even a slight bit further south than what the GFS showed. But as we move closer to Jamaica and Cuba, we can see that it's basically following the same path as the GFS, just over the north part of Jamaica. And now you're going to see it cross over the center part of Cuba, and instead of going west into the Gulf, it does the exact opposite and stays on the east coast towards the Bahamas. And you can watch that take place right here along the same time frame as if it went into the west coast. And if this happens, now we have a totally different situation on hand where the Carolinas may be dealing with a strong storm, as opposed to if it happened on the west coast with that interaction with Florida and Georgia before making any sort of impact on the Carolinas. I want to thank you all so much once again for taking the time to watch this video. You know I will have updates and constant information posted about this storm and every other storm that comes after it. Any questions, concerns, please leave down in the comment section or reach out on the Twitter page at Into Thin Air. All right, my friends, have a great day. Shout out to Canada. Take care. Bye-bye. Stop right there, my friends. If you have not already, click that subscribe button, and don't forget to hit the bell icon. Click all, and you will get all notifications from this channel. And trust me, you won't be disappointed.